Hello. Today I'm coming to you from another corner of my world. This is the choir rehearsal room of Mount Olive Lutheran Church. Built in the 1950s, designed by my predecessor, Paul Mons, and the church choirs have been rehearsing in this room ever since. For the last 20 years or so, it's also been the rehearsal space for the National Lutheran Choir. A lot of magic has happened in these walls. In keeping with our Easter theme of joy, today's hymn, Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, is among the top 10 among singers of hymns, and it's found in most denominational hymnals. The text comes to us from the Presbyterian branch of that Christian tree. Most of us immediately associate this hymn with Ludwig van Beethoven, and we get that stern image of all the busts we've seen with the wild hair. And we are well aware of the tragic story of his gradually becoming deaf. In fact, by the time he composed the Ninth Symphony from which this tune comes, he was completely deaf. The tune was originally written to set a text by another von, J.C.F. von Schiller, known as Ode to Joy. The original German went, Freude, schöne Götterfunken. Say that 5 times fast. In the last movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, he makes use of this tune in every way possible, fast, slow, big, small. As melodies go, however, it's really not that spectacular. It's mostly just 5 notes. Of course, at the end of the 3rd line, we get another one. But it's so simple. It's one of the first melodies that beginning instrumentalists learn when they're starting from scratch. Perhaps its musical simplicity is precisely why it works so well. It's simple, but not simplistic. Many hymnals include Beethoven's original rhythmic kick going into the last line. Scholars are not in agreement whether congregations can handle that kind of syncopation or not, so it appears that both ways in various hymnals. I've learned, however, never to underestimate the abilities of a congregation. As Beethoven demonstrates in the last movement of the Ninth Symphony, this tune can be sung with a lot of different speeds. It can move slowly, or stately, faster, or faster yet, or even faster. I once watched Alice Parker lead a large group of singers with this hymn, and for each of the 3 stanzas, she did a radically different speed, and all of them worked. Remarkable. That's a sign of a very effective tune. The text is by another Van, Henry van Dyke, who died in 1933, about 100 years after Beethoven's death. Henry van Dyke was an American Presbyterian minister and professor of English. Apparently, he loved the outdoors and nature, as evident in this text with images like flowers, sun, clouds, fields, and forests. In this text, Paul Westermeyer, in his book, The Hymnal Companion to the Evangelical Lutheran Book of Worship, says that Van Dyke didn't deny pain or trouble or the gloom of doubt. And in fact, Van Dyke's son quoted his father as saying, "Happiness consists not so much of the absence of pain as the presence of joy." This is something for us to ponder this spring of 2020. When preparing to musically introduce a hymn to an assembly for them to sing, I like to put many things into the room. In addition to the musical things such as key, pulse, when to breathe. I like to put additional things out there like mood or affect, images from the text, articulation, maybe how we might sing it. Hopefully, these might open windows for how the singer might find deeper meaning in these words as we sing it. In this case, Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, for the introduction, I imagine an inward joy, bubbly and happy like champagne. The figure I use is arpeggiated. It's like group bubbles working together, creating harmony that with butterflies in our stomach exude joy. Eventually, this joy can no longer be contained and erupts into shouts of joy as I move to fuller organ. When we sing, it's at a good clip, as if we're eager for that next line and that next stanza. I also like to sneak in a surprise for stanza 2 when the choir sings it and do the Beethoven up a third. So we start with our home key, go up here. An interlude brings everyone back to the home key for the final stanza sung with Des Cantor, hopefully without letting go of any of that sense of anticipation or joy. I look at these words and feel great comfort today. This morning, as I came here, nature seems to be carrying on as if nothing is different during this pandemic. The sun is shining, the birds are out, trees are getting buds. Everything's carrying on as it normally does. We will too, eventually. And this text reminds us that God can, does, and will continue to lift us up to that joy divine.